pleasant good morning and welcome to Lntv News Live. News Live is a production of the television department here at the Liberia Broadcasting System. My name is Amanda Yasia Saleh, anchoring this morning edition of the program, and these are the top stories we are following. Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency to, for the first time, bring huge quantity of drugs valued at over 123 billion Liberian dollars. 2 days African Leaders Network Steering Committee meeting ends in Monrovia as a former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf admonishes women to promote unity. Liberia National Police institutes series of new traffic measures aimed at curtailing road accidents across the country. And away from home, families of Kenyans who died in an Ethiopian airline flight last month to sue the airline and U.S. aircraft manufacturer. Those are the headlines. Let's take a short break. It'll be right back. The Liberian Drug Enforcement Agency says it is committed to fighting drugs abuse and trafficking across the country. The agency, under its Zero Tolerance campaign, will on Thursday, that's today, bring huge quantity of drugs valued at over 123 billion Liberian dollars. Michael Jipley is the Public Relations Officer of the LDEA. He has been explaining more to ELBC News on Wednesday.
One of the huge quantity of drugs arrested. You talk about more than Liberian dollar 123 billion 120,304 Liberian dollar worth of drugs.
Could you repeat that, please?
The Liberian dollar worth of drugs that is to be destroyed tomorrow is in a tune of US Liberian dollar 123 billion 120 million $304. And the United States dollar value is $768,298,053.
How did you arrive at the figures?
We arrive at the figure based on the scaling, the comparison of the drugs in relation to the drugs market, the prices on the market, and also in consonance with the hugeness of the drugs that has been arrested from both Mount Serrado, some parts of the Leeward County.
How many counties in total?
Are we talking about the entire country?
The entire country.
Yeah, some of them came from other counties to add to the ones already we have in Monrovia, while we also arresting, and this constitute the operations as of last year July, all right, up to present. And the thing about it is that we've not concluded our drugs calendar yet, and yet we have arrested this huge amount of drugs. So that.
Mr. Jipley has at the same time expressed a fear on the proliferation of drug abuse and trafficking across the country, something he noted poses a serious threat to the survivability of the peace process of Liberia.
Statistically, the issue of trafficking and abuse is gradually accelerating, and that's one thing we always take our time to inform the populace.
That's why you're arresting people?
Oh, definitely. Despite we're doing all of the major and important arrests across the country, but the influx as well as the abuse system continue to increase. And we feel it is quite threatening to the livelihood, it's quite threatening to the survivability of the state. And for us as institutions, having the constitutional power, it is in our purview, it is in our function to go after perpetrators, and that's what we are doing. But again, the challenges of the institutions remains overemphasized. But howbeit, we are still on top of the game. First, in the history of DA, launched a nationwide county tour where we were able to dissect some of the problems our guys are faced with, and we realized that they are huge, ranging from low manpower, ranging from the lack of logistic, the lack of some basic law enforcement equipment, and coupled with some other challenges, both the court system and as well as going after drug dealer and the increasing rate of crime.
A two-day African Women Leaders Network Steering Committee meeting in Monrovia under the auspices of UN Women and the African Union has ended. Former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf used the occasion to admonish women globally to promote unity and resist all forms of divisiveness.
The driving force of this initiative will have to be the national chapters. How they organize, how they structure, how they formulate their strategies, and more importantly, their focus. The programs that they will have, the common goals that they will identify to be able to move this initiative to the place where we all would like to see it. For the Liberia chapter, you are particularly challenged because you have to move beyond distrust and fear. You have to move beyond disunity and see how you can put all the women together around this common goal. And in doing so, let me make two other points that will be important for you, but not only for you, for all the national chapters. Much was said about many of the women in the informal sector, the rural women, the difficulties they face. We need to focus on what the Economic Commission for Africa has been talking about, the free movement of people, the continental free trade area. You can have the best of policies, the best of the commitment. These women, when they go across the border, what they face is because that information about us trying to have common ideals, common procedures, common regulation.
However, the gathering was concluded by the reading of a joint communique by Upendo Peneza Furaha, a member of Tanzanian Parliament.
The main objective of the meeting was to consolidate the outcome of the second Only Forum and define a roadmap for the network with concrete steps to deliver agreed upon actions on flagship projects and proposed way forward. Major outcomes of the meeting include the following package of actions and the 6 themes with the aim of creating an impactful and sustainable ecosystem for women across all themes. 1, on the increased participation of women in governance. The agreed outcomes is 50-50, the no woman, no vote, and second, support for women candidates in political elections. The second was on peace and security, and we agreed upon to have a joint AU-UN solidarity missions for peace, security, and development, implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325. And the third,
the Liberian National Police has instituted a series of traffic measures to help curtail the increase in road accidents across the country. According to police spokesman Moses Carter, the measures include new equipment to detect drunk drivers, speed radars to determine speed limits and lights to be placed in all trucks, that's on all trucks. He said the new measures will be very effective as violators will face the full weight of the law.
Every truck that plies the highway right now, we have a light above it and lights around it. With these kind of measures, we are very hopeful that drivers, with themselves now, be saved of this kind of, accidents, that have been happening. We also, as going forward, we also have brought into country an instrument called breathalyzer. I don't know whether you know that. That is basically for drivers who will get drunk and get behind steering
under the
influence of alcohol. Our vehicle and traffic law says a driver must, if you must consume alcohol, it must be to 0.2%. 0.2. Anything beyond 0.2, absolutely, you are under the influence of alcohol. Then we also have, secure what we call a speed radar. There are some drivers, there are speed limits.
Yes.
For example, if you're driving in a city center, there are speed limits. Around hospital, you have to drive 10 miles per hour. And there are some other speed limits, residential areas. There are some other drivers who will not just respect.
Meanwhile, the police spokesman, Moses Carter, is advising the public to report every and any broken down vehicle.
The National Police does not have one tow truck. So what we rely on is those commercial tow trucks. So we've had a meeting with those commercial, tow truck owners, and they've committed to us that they will work with the Liberia National Police in making sure that we can effect the issue of public safety, especially highway patrols, those broken down vehicles. So going forward, if anyone has information on any broken down vehicle, once you call 0770-800-911, the tow truck will be alerted.
Sit down the way, please.
To do highway patrol means you have to have, vehicles at our, let's say, Monrovia Buchanan Highway. Then you also have the Monrovia Bomi Cape Mount Highway. Then you also have the Monrovia Kakata, Magibi, let's say Kakata, Bong, Nimba highways. So you need to have, each of these highways need to have an assigned vehicles.
Health Minister Dr. Wilhelmina Njala says in collaboration with partners, the construction of 3 hospitals in separate locations are expected to begin soon in the country. According to Dr. Njala, the hospitals will be built in Nemba, Bassa, and Wapol counties. Mr. Njala has been explaining more in an interview with this station.
The Italian government have made a commitment for the hospital in Bassa, so we are working closely with them to make sure that their commitment come true for the Liberian people. And also the Qatar government asked us what do we want, so we said that we wanted the hospital in Sanikole. And no offense against any of the politicians in those areas, but as we get commitments, we'll be asking you to see where do you want. So we do ask, we consult to see where they want a hospital. We'll be checking. So we'll be following up with them. And also, there's a hospital being built in Riverside right now. So hospitals are being built as we look for a way to support primary care.
Okay. What's the detail of that, of the whole commitment? To build new hospitals or to refurbish?
Well,
what's that there?
The hospitals that we are talking about in these places some of them are substandard. For example, in Bassa, there was a fire, or the Liberian government hospital, part of it was burned. They need new wiring and things like that. So we think the people of Grand Bassa deserve a new hospital. Turnkey. So turnkey meaning that equipment, other things will be in there. So at least, the old one probably will be turned into a healthcare center or something, and then there will be.
Meanwhile, following her recent tour of health facilities across the country, Health Minister Dr. Wilhelmina Njala has been explaining things she observed during her recent tour?
Well, a lot of the facilities, like the major problem were fuel situation. So we're glad that a lot of goodwill have come in with solar. So today I got the good news that I think one of the agency are going to look at all some of the clinics and some of the health centers to provide solar for them. And then the hospitals have another group that will come in to provide solar. So that should in itself ease some of the no fuel problem.
Okay.
So that that is very welcoming for me. So that's one of the major problems I saw.
Okay.
And a few houses are being built, but we are encouraging different projects to remember to include staff housing, so that the staff that make the sacrifice to go to these counties can have at least a decent place with a solar panel and some other amenities to live there. So we are encouraging.
As this a reminder that you are viewing Lntv News Live. News Live is a production of the television department here at the Liberia Broadcasting System. My name is Amanda Yassisala, anchoring this morning edition of the program, and these are the top stories we are following. Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency to, for the first time, bring huge quantity of drugs valued at over 123 billion Liberian dollars. 2 days African Leaders Network Steering Committee meeting ends in Monrovia as former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf admonishes women to promote unity. Liberia National Police institutes a series of new traffic measures aimed at curtailing road accidents across Liberia. And away from home, families of Kenyans who died in an Ethiopian Airlines flight last month to sue the airline and U.S. aircraft manufacturer. Let's take a short break to be right back. Welcome back to the program. The African Development Bank says it will invest about $35 billion United States dollars in the next 10 years to support industrializations in Africa. Speaking at a press conference Wednesday in Monrovia, AFDB Principal Country Program Officer Abdul Bangura said Liberia stands a better chance to benefit from such economic insight.
Group, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, has in several international and regional fora and meetings urged African countries to add value to their products in all sectors for rapid industrialization of the continent. Notably, in 2018, he made greater emphasis at the bank's annual meeting in Busan, South Korea, by indicating that the bank will invest $35 billion in the next 10 years to support industrialization in Africa and to grow its industrial GDP to 1.7 trillion US dollars from the current 700 billion United States dollars. Moreover, he pinpointed that Africa is greatly endowed with natural resources that need to be tapped to create jobs and add value to products before export, because no nation achieves industrialization by exporting raw materials. This will require the facilitation of the growth of medium and small-scale enterprises that we normally refer to as SMEs, adding value to products before they are exported, for galvanizing rapid industrialization as enshrined in the country's proper agenda for prosperity and development. Now, as a natural resource-rich country, Liberia stands a better chance to benefit from these economic insights. Indeed, it is based on this understanding that the African Development Bank and the African Natural Resources Center of the African Development Bank worked together with the Forestry Development Authority of Liberia to develop these catalytic projects on strengthening the participation of SMEs in the certain wood processing industry in the country. These projects was perceived positively and approved in 2018 by the donors of the African Private Sector Assistance (FAPA) Trust Fund, which includes the African Development Bank, the government of Japan, and the government of Australia.
In remarks, FDA Managing Director Mark Doyen stressed the importance of processing raw materials in the country aimed at adding value to them.
We are all aware that no country, especially developing country, can lift their people out of poverty if we do not turn to industrialization or we do not turn to any value addition activity. To leave a raw materials and have it exported, going to show they have less value for that material. For example, if you a cubic of log exported here, raw log, will cost about 2 or 3 times less if that particular log was processed and into some semi-processed product. So besides that, the logistics surrounding it is also an issue. You will need bigger vessels. You will need a lot of equipment to load one ship with raw log. But if you were to process those logs and just have a process steamer, you probably will be carrying, a little lower than that. So there are many reasons why it's important that
At the same time, the NGO Coalition of Liberia is calling on the Forestry Development Authority, FDA, to institute an immediate review of the forest management agreement between the Numopo community in Sino and the Delta Timber Company. During the launch of its forest monitoring report on the Numopo community forest Tuesday, the NGO coalition said the people of Numopo have decided to halt all logging activities of Delta Timber Company in their forest until due diligence is exhibited by the company. Here is an excerpt of the coalition report presented by one of its members, Ibrahim Bailey.
In 2006, our country embarked on a rigorous reform, and part of that was to reform the forestry laws. In 2009, we also observed an enactment of a law called the Community Rights Law, and this law gives the community the power to manage, to control, and protect their forests. So this has actually led to several communities in Liberia acquiring certification to protect, to manage, and control their forests. Having gone through this, that is the people of Numopo, they decided to go into an arrangement with Delta Timber Company. They signed this agreement with Delta in 2016. Following that, it was expected that both parties benefit from the contract they have signed.
Meanwhile, the NGO Coalition Tuesday launched a radio talk show aimed at raising communities' voice at the national level. Here is Mr. Paul Carney, a member of the NGO Coalition, explaining more about the radio talk show.
The Forest Hour is intended to raise community voices at national level. It is expected to ignite nationwide participation, dialogue on forest law, policy, agreements, and practices within the context of forest law enforcement, governance, and trade. The radio talk show will draw attention to reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, and other conditions agreed to in the Volunteer Partnership Agreement, VPA, that was signed between the European Union and the Liberian government to discourage illegal logging and promote transparency and accountability. Because the Forest Hour aims to provide alternative national platform to draw stakeholder attention to infraction in forest communities, it will be accessible to sector experts, legal practitioners, forest structures, including the National Union of Community Forest Management Committee, National Union of Community Forest Management Body,
Margibi County lawmaker Ava Jones has condemned the recent burning of 2 police stations and a magisterial court in Wiyala, Margibi County. The lawmaker is at the same time calling on the police to speed up the investigation that led to the burning of the stations. He made the disclosure in an Lntv interview.
First, extend my sympathy to the bereaved family, especially the victim that was involved in the alleged murder, the motorcyclist. We want to first condemn the action that every citizen or any citizen of this country, besides the Margibi County that is involved in the act, we will ensure that you are brought to book and the law will take a course. That we will not sit down and allow our citizens, especially citizens who are trying to use the rightful channel to get their ends meet, that people will just come about to take their life foolishly because of some, let's say, financial gain or so forth. In the same vein, we want to also condemn the action of those protesters who took to the street violently by burning the police stations in district number 5, and not only the police station but also went as far as burning the court. I guess it was a magisterial court that was burned. We want to condemn the action and going beyond to burn the private homes of let's say an alleged, let's say, businessman. We want to say violence should never and should not be seen as a medium through which we can resolve issues. We have
And away from home now, families of Kenyans who died in an Ethiopian Airlines flight last month say they will sue the airline and U.S. aircraft manufacturer Boeing over the deaths. The families of those who died say the aircraft manufacturer, Boeing, and the airline should bear the responsibility for the deaths of their loved ones. They say that initial reports show the Boeing 737 MAX 8 had design faults that could have led to the crash. The families are being represented by a group of lawyers from Kenya and the U.S. The attorneys say they are confident of winning the case, which they will file in the U.S. The family of Rwandan national who died in the crash have already filed a lawsuit in a U.S. court alleging that the Boeing 737 MAX 8 plane design is defective. This comes as more details emerged of the final moments of the flight. Well, that's how we like to leave you on this morning presentation of Lntv News Alive. But just before we go, these are the top stories we've been following. Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency to, for the first time, burn huge quantity of drugs valued at over 123 billion Liberian dollars. 2 days African Leaders Network Steering Committee meeting ends in Monrovia as a former Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf admonishes women to promote unity. Liberia National Police institutes a series of new traffic measures aimed at curtailing road accidents across the country. And away from home, families of Kenyans who died in an Ethiopian Airlines flight last month to sue the airline and U.S. aircraft manufacturers. Well, on behalf of the entire team here at the Liberia Broadcasting System, my name is Amanda Yasir Saleh. I anchored. Thank you so much for being with us, and do have a pleasant day.